Hello, 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 guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Mortgage Mavericks podcast with me, Ash Borland. And in today's episode, we are joined again. Dan Reddish is joining us. And it has been about a year, I think, since we last
Probably.
spoke, even a bit more.
Yeah, God knows. It's everything just time just flies, doesn't it? And you just lose track of stuff. So you tell me, Ash, because I ain't got
It
a
does, mate.
clue.
Literally, we were just saying this before we came on air that actually, when we stopped working together, because me and you go way back, like way, way back, like when you first came into the industry, I remember having a phone call with like a Zoom call with you, and you're like, I've got this idea.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
was like
you were there from the inception,
right at the
wasn't it? From the
beginning.
start.
Like, I remember having a chat with you and you being like, I'm going to do this whole thing. And then here we are today. And you've grown a business, built a name for yourself in the industry. It's amazing to see. So just give us a bit of clip notes as who is Dan Reddish and what do you do?
Yeah, my kind of background going way back. I used to run club nights. I'm from Doncaster in the north of England, so we used to do club events in Leeds, Sheffield, Doncaster. Then this was like back in the early 2000s, and there was the internet, but it was very early in its infancy. So back then it was about putting posters up on walls, running around with a pasting bucket at night through the streets, dodging the cops. But then obviously Facebook came out in 2004. There was MySpace before that, but then Facebook really changed things because I realized I could set up these event pages on Facebook, invite all my friends, get all the DJs to invite all their friends. And I just realized I could do what I was doing running around, sat on my backside just on Facebook, and it just made things a lot easier. So that was my kind of introduction to digital marketing, obviously. And then it's just gradually, and then I started doing it through my contacts in hospitality, like the kind of bars, and I got in touch with a few restaurants, doing it for them. And then I had one of my friends his brother was a mortgage broker, but it still is. He's still one of my clients now. So I was doing it for him, basically just posting stuff on his Facebook account. And then he introduced me to someone else, another broker. And then, so I had a couple of brokers, and then lockdown hit. And then I was like, oh, shit, because obviously, oops.
You can swear, mate. It's cool.
Oh, great. Thanks. But yeah, and so lockdown hit, and then obviously all the bars and restaurants just went pretty much, 80% of my business just went like that overnight. And that was the time when I decided to just focus in financial services. And I got into just had a bit more. It was Primus that actually, because one of my broker clients was with Primus, and they introduced me to Bob Scott.
Yeah, no, Bob. Yeah.
No problem. So he got me into a lot of these. He introduced me to Rich Coulson, who just did Primus at that point, and they got me in to do these social media workshops over Zoom to upskill their guys. Obviously, while lockdown was in place, because they couldn't do a lot of work. And then that got me a few more clients through putting myself in front of those guys. And then, like I say, part of the lockdown was because I couldn't, because before, I know I'm going on, Ash, but
No, it's good. This is mate. I brought you on here to talk about it.
yeah, so I was doing one-to-one coaching before lockdown, and obviously traveling around. One day I've been Southampton, next day I've been Newcastle, just seeing like one client per day. And obviously I couldn't do that when lockdown hit.
Yeah.
But that's when I put together what I do now in a way is the new age stuff is a sized package, like all my knowledge going into something that can be scaled really. So it's all digital remote stuff. It doesn't need to be in front of people. Yeah, that's the inception of what I do now. If that answers your question.
And so I wanted to dive in a little bit because you say me and you worked together we worked together for about 2 years. It was quite a long time. And actually look back at it, I
Yeah.
get all of the time hops coming up on my feed.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do like every Tuesday night. It'd be like
Yeah.
here we are.
We made sure we posted it, didn't we, up between us?
Yeah, all of us like, and I have such fond memories of it as looking back at it. But what was so good about that group, there's me, you, and Ross, is we were all good in different ways. You were like the funnels, the digital marketing, the ads. I came with the branding side of things, and Ross came with the mindset. But you've now moved into, from my understanding, and please explain this to me and to the listeners as well, because I hear your name pop up a lot now around LinkedIn. So everyone, that probably happened for me about when we're recording this in because I record these in advance. So it's like April now. Yeah, mid-April. I started hearing you being about LinkedIn probably 9 months ago, where it really started to maybe a year ago, where I really started to see people, the branding or your association of what you did seemed to have changed in the public perception, and you started to be the name for LinkedIn. So just talk me through a little bit about why that would be the case, and what that really means.
Yeah, sure. So obviously what I do is help people get appointments booked with the right people. And that is what I do for myself and my own business. So I'm always looking at new ways to do that. That's my main objective, is to, because at the end of the day, I think there's two main things that matter to the growth of your business. One is generating the right appointments, and the other is conducting them. And so I put all my energy and attention into that and finding out new ways. And part of that process is investing in upskilling myself. So I did a course, it was a couple of years ago now, but that's when it was a LinkedIn course, quite heavy on LinkedIn. So I learned that and implemented that for myself and realized, shit, this works, this specific strategy. And yeah, that was the inception. So I got it. This is what I do. I get it to work for me. Once it works for me, and then start to roll it out into the program and into my clients. So that's how it came about. Because before that, I was doing a lot of Facebook ads, doing a lot of Facebook organic. Still do the Facebook organic, but I still do a little bit of Facebook ads, but just the retargeting stuff now. Because this LinkedIn stuff, 2-3 grand a month on Facebook ads to generate obviously clients. But now this LinkedIn strategy, it's organic, which means there's no ad spend, and it generates the same but better value stuff, and it's free. So it's saving me 2-3 grand a month with the same kind of output.
So what is the LinkedIn stuff that you do? What is the strategy? How would someone use LinkedIn specifically as a broker to generate leads? What is the bit? Because people struggle with LinkedIn. They always do. Like, I've got a few clients who do very well on it. I've got many who don't, but it's a tough one. And I know many who do struggle. So what's the kind of, how are people maybe getting it wrong?
I think most people get it wrong. I think I speak to brokers most days, and when I mention that, I say, do you use LinkedIn? And say, yeah, I never get anything from it. And I ask them about who the connections are, and they say it's pretty much 90% brokers, other brokers. And it's like that they're never going to buy from you, so they just see it as a social media site, which is what it is. But I think it's reframing that and looking at it as a tool, a business generating tool, and filling it up with your ideal client. So that's obviously the second part of the process that we do. The first part, there's three main kind of core pillars to what we do. Number one is to define exactly who the ideal client is. You do this, Ashley. Pretty much every marketing coach that you talk to will suggest that you need to niche down and get really specific. And we use a lot of ChatGPT to help with that process and AI stuff. And once we've got all that data, we can then optimize the LinkedIn profile around the psychology of the market. So it's effectively turning the LinkedIn profile into a landing page rather than it being like a traditional LinkedIn profile when it's all about the advisor. It's more focused on the customer and their problems and demonstrating the pains and the problems that they'll experience trying to get a mortgage without the help of an expert that deals specifically with that industry and that niche. But yeah, that's the first part to it. We'd kind of optimize the profile, make it all just talk directly to your customer and show that you understand them. So yeah, and then we use Sales Navigator to obviously, so once we've defined who it is, we then need to find them. And Sales Navigator is perfect for doing that. But yeah, do you use Sales Navigator at all?
So I don't use Sales Navigator. I was going to ask you about that. So with Sales Navigator, what is Sales Navigator? So I know roughly what it is, but it's not something I use. So it'd be interesting for people listening to this. What is Sales Navigator? How does it work?
A question that a lot of people have on the lips, really. So like you say, I think a lot of people have heard of it, but they don't know the power of it or how it works. So it's LinkedIn. It's the premium version of LinkedIn. I think it's like 70 quid a month, something like that. LinkedIn knows everything about everybody on their platform. It's a similar, the analogy I often use is it's like Facebook ads. Facebook knows everything about everybody on Facebook. So Facebook ads, you've got all the filters and interests and things to target the right people. Similar with Sales Navigator. So the key is to know, really focused in on your ideal client and who they are, how much money they earn. It's beneficial to do limited company directors, business owners. Generally, LinkedIn, that's the benefit of LinkedIn. It's a high net worth member base on there. It's a different intent on LinkedIn. People are more open to doing deals and things. It's that kind of mindset. But yeah, going back to Sales Navigator, we can build a list basically of the most perfect ideal client.
Okay.
So we build a list of 2,000 to 4,000 of them. And then we use an AI piece of software which will just go through that list. So you've got two options. One is to do it manually, connect with them to your personal profile. Or the other is to leverage some tech which will do a lot of that job for you. Yeah, the kind of thing that needs to be done first is to make sure that profile is optimized and that's nailed. Other than that, if you don't, then people just aren't going to accept the connection request.
So
So that's one
what's
of
the
my main.
difference between, I've got them on here at the moment. So I'm on the LinkedIn business plan, the premium plan, but the business one. There's the LinkedIn premium, and then there's like business, which is grow and nurture your network. Then there's which is £55 a month, or yeah, £55 a month, and it says or it's 350. It's like 350 a year. And there's the Sales Navigator, and the Sales Navigator is 840 a year. What's the difference in the two? So I can, it's just, so it's not just for me, it's also people listening to this, because people
Yeah.
here with when they're listening to this going, okay, so if I go on LinkedIn, it's the premium, what do I get for the upgraded version versus the other one?
The I've never used the other one, but I think it's for like more for recruiting. Core is the one that we use, which is
Yeah,
for lead generation. So yeah, that's the only one.
because this is something I said, this is coming out of my remit, so I think it's exciting for people to listen to this and see this. So it says here that the you've got, let me, I don't even know if I can actually, if I share it, it'll go all messy on the screen. So I probably won't be able to, because of the, when I edit this afterwards. So we've got in mail. Yeah. So the big difference I can see is advanced search and account search tools, sales navigation platforms. So it's quite a big uptick in price. So obviously, and is this not then, this isn't the thing that will add people for you. So you can get the list of people. This won't do the automated adding. Is
No,
that correct?
that's right. So yeah, you can do it manually, but it obviously it takes a while. That's how I started doing it manually. And then again, like I say, I did this program and they put me in touch with this provider of this piece of software which kind of does it.
And is that allowed to be done with LinkedIn? Are they allowed to do? I know that it's always a gray area with software. Is it something they allow, or is it like a you got to take it at your own kind of risk?
Yeah, it's. I don't
Most
think.
software is like that, so I'm just curious if that was a.
Yeah, I've heard this come up before. I've never actually spoke to LinkedIn about it. I've never actually asked them if they allow it or not. But
Mm.
I've used it for. I've used some kind of tool for about 6 or 7 years, and this one specifically for the past 2 or 3. And yeah, I've never had a problem with it, and none of my clients have ever had a problem. And it's never come up to find that information out if they
I think
allow it.
that's the main thing to know. I know that I do know if you spam ad, because it happened to me, if you spam ad a lot of people, like you spam, but if you, so like say doing all the things you just said, like adding the people in and having the ideal target. But if you add too many people in a short amount of time, they threaten to ban
Yeah,
me on that. And that was just because I was bored. I was like waiting to pick up my wife from somewhere, and I was like, oh, I'll just add some people and just carried on going. And then I
yeah.
got hit with a 7 day
Good morning.
suspension.
Yeah,
And then it was like,
it happened to me on Facebook. Facebook does a similar thing. So obviously, I've always done the organic, similar process. What I've
yeah.
done, but it's just about taking it steady because each different account has got different limits on it, depending on how old it is, depending on the connections that you've already got, depending on how much you're using, how much you're posting. So it's just about starting off slow and building up. But that's the beauty of this tech. You can set these parameters on it, so it doesn't just go gradually. Yeah, because then
4,000 people overnight.
yeah,
So that will just slowly drip feed people your ideal target, the
yeah,
background. That's
yeah.
brilliant.
So it's just very automated. So it's just constantly building up your audience with the right people. So after a while, it's just constantly consist going. After a year or two, you've got literally thousands of connections on there. We're all your most perfect ideal client that you're posting content that's relevant to and tailored around, and making connections with these people and building relationships with them. And the upshot of that is that yeah, leads come through and appointments come through and deals come through thick and fast.
It is. LinkedIn is one of those places. It's just interesting to hear this because we haven't had someone come on and talk about LinkedIn. That's why I knew you were coming on. I just want to talk with you about it because it's the only platform I can think of where you can target specific jobs. I always say this to clients, if you know who it is you work with, and that's where you go back to what you said before, that's the stuff you do with them, defining who that person, if you don't know who they are and what they, more specifically what they do and what they call themselves, because I don't know if that's something you found with LinkedIn.
Yeah,
It's not, I've had people that are like, I work with business owners, and I'm like, but what business owners? Because no one
yeah,
writes, I'm a business owner. And anyone who writes, I'm a business owner or an entrepreneur normally is going to be like, you probably don't want them because they're probably not that good. Like
yeah.
they're actually like, as you say, like a dentist or a lawyer
Very
or,
broad.
they
Yeah,
actually write what they are. So you need to know that. And I think once you know how to play in LinkedIn's parameters, it's unparalleled to any other platform.
That's the main part. Before you even touch LinkedIn, it's about defining exactly who it is. You can't just do business owners, really. It's just too broad. You need to dig into the psychology of one specific avatar or customer profile,
Yeah.
and dig into that psychology, because a business owner could be a gardener earning 20K a year, or it could be a limited company director of a corporation of 1,000 head count, where he's earning multiple millions, and then the
Yeah.
psychology between those two business owners are going to be completely different, aren't they? Yeah, that's the key part. And then, like you say, it's just the more you learn about them, because I'm still, obviously, I've been through the process myself. I used to do digital marketing for anyone and everyone. Now I just do it for financial services. And I'm always learning more about my market and how to sharpen up my messaging. And I'll hear a certain problem on a call and add that into my marketing message. And I see an uptick just from that. And it's just, and then, like you said, how they identify themselves. Like brokers, there's loads of different ways that brokers identify themselves.
Like broker,
Broker,
expert,
or as
professional,
principals of firms, or
principal. Yeah, like director. It's pretty senior mortgage. Like it's like a
yeah,
whole thing that when you start looking into it,
yeah.
it's pretty crazy.
But like you say, you get to learn more the more you dig into it, and the more you immerse yourself in a certain niche or industry.
Yeah, you definitely do. I could echo that completely. Me and you do the same job, and we've known each other for a long time. And I know with me, as you get better at it and you learn more about your niche, you start realize, like with one of the things I talk about with me is I don't really work with people. So I only work with business owners who turn over 100 grand. And it's probably more like 200 now. And they have to be fee charging advisors.
Mm.
Now, I didn't know that. That's just when you start looking at your data, it
You
was
learn
like,
more as you go.
oh, everybody I work with charges fees. And all my best clients are fee charging advisors who make between 100 and 200,000 a year, and they have a kind of can do attitude. They don't
Yeah,
require somebody to try and make them go. They're a self starter, not a Kickstarter. They just
yeah.
want someone to
Okay.
guide them. Once I realized that, but I wouldn't, that took me years. It took me like 3.5 years, 4 years. And it was only when you look and then you go, okay, I can tweak my messaging to that. Which is
Yeah,
why when people listen to me, sometimes they'll get annoyed with me when I'm like really, and you'll love this because you're this way as well, is the marketing message is about leaning on trying to identify the people who work with you. And
yeah.
so sometimes I'll
Pre-qualifies.
sound off about fees and I'll sound off about certain levels of income, whatever. No, not really. But it is, you do you. But it is also, this isn't for you. If the marketing isn't for you, it's for this specific person. And I think that's exactly the type of stuff you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's pre-qualifies people, like you said. It's the brokers earning between what do you say, 1 and 200K, and when you put that in your marketing message, it kind of filters out all the ones that aren't 100K. You probably can't help as well, and they probably couldn't afford you, so they're
Yeah.
not going to be of any help to you, or you're not going to be of any help to them. So yeah, all that messaging just, yeah, it just instantly pre-qualifies the right people. And
So one of the things I wanted to ask you,
marketing.
this is something that has, I wanted to ask you this on here because I was see first of all if your stance has changed. But something I learned from you, and I learned this massively. It was something I really probably a big part of my success was one of the things you said about this. And you might not even remember this, but you were have always been, when I knew you, when we worked together, absolutely adamant that you didn't take phone calls at all. And you said something to me when we were like, when you were coaching us, or we were all in that kind of group coaching thing, and you said that phone calls, when someone calls you, they're effectively saying that their time is more important than your time, and it's disrupting the thing you plan to do.
100%. Yeah.
And that specific advice that you said categorically, because at that point I hated phone calls, but I was like, oh, I'll do them if I have to. And since that point, I've always been like, no, you can get lost. Like everybody, because and I always play that back. There's when someone said it, do you still hold that same stance? Is that still how
Oh
you
yeah.
are?
I'm just hoping my phone doesn't ring now after saying
Yeah.
this. I never take phone calls. Oops. But yeah, no, 100%. Ash, that's like you said, you hit the nail on the head there. It just takes you out of what you're doing, and you want to be in that zone of doing whatever you want to do, whatever you're trying to do, be present in that. And yeah, taking calls reactively, it just takes you out of what you're trying to do. And like you say, it's generally someone else's agenda as to why people are ringing you. But even then, I'll make sure they're booked in and screened and make sure they're pre-qualified before I'll invest that time ringing them, and when or doing a Zoom call, which is how
Yeah.
everybody does it these days. Not everybody, but it's how I do it. And yeah, the beauty of that is as well, you batching everything into, I'll do my calls on 2 or 3 days of the week and my other stuff on the other days of the week. So then I'm focused on what I'm doing on calls. I'm in that mindset. I'm focused on that one thing. Where if you're working on something on your laptop and then a call comes in and you're like, your brain's half in there, it's half on there, and you just like, you're not fully engaged or present in either one of the two. And it just ends up a waste of time for me.
Do you find that mortgage brokers should and mortgage advisors, they should be more like that they should have a more of a, because I know that in the industry, a lot of people, I've spoke to many advisors in different events and speaking things and stuff, that they all seem to be quite, not all, so sorry guys, not all of you, but some of them seem very kind
Reactive.
of reactive, so to
Mm.
speak. Is that something that you see?
Yeah, 100%. That's the whole kind of premise of everything that we do, is to show people how to, not obviously just to generate business, but run a business in a scalable and productive way. And that all ties into it. I think it was, obviously we've done sessions in the past where you've been on, Ash, about kind of delegate things and working out what your time is worth and just putting that into the right things. And yeah, and like we said before, and just optimizing your time, and that plays into the phone thing for me, because that, when you add it up, if you're taking a lot of reactive calls over the course of a week, I can't think of the phrase, just to, when they say someone, I just want to tap into your mind for 5 minutes or something, I
Oh
want,
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I'm trying
yeah,
to. Yeah, I know what you're trying to. I know what you're saying, but I can't remember the
yeah, I
name.
can't think of the actual terminology of it, but basically a lot of them are just extracting free information from you, and they're just tire kickers, and they're not serious people who are going to pay money. And then that's the point of business, is to, yeah, to build and connect with people who are going to pay money.
That can
So,
be I think that's something that's took me a long time to learn. I don't know if you've had this again. I'm naturally not that way and that's something, like I said, I learned that from you, was I learned the ability to watch somebody very much respect their time and be like, no. One of the things I've always struggled with, and I'm definitely struggled with as you get more successful, and I'm sure you've had the same thing, is that when you first start out, every lead is a lead. So this is when you're really starting, like, I just need the business. But as time gets on, especially the type of things that like I do and that you do, like I build myself out as a public figure in our industry, eventually it's a flywheel effect. And eventually you start to build up momentum and people message you. And that's great at the beginning because you want people to message, because, oh, wow, yeah, you're asking me questions and it's there and get, but then when you hit like where I'm at now, which is like a waiting list and stuff, it becomes really hard to then have to say to somebody like, I can't spend 2 hours a day sat answering DMs because I would be. I can't,
yeah,
so you have to then start creating ways of like going, look, thank you very much. Here's the question. That's why I built that free course I made, because I was like, these are just all the questions people keep asking me. I'm like, actually, like that question now is worth a lot of money. People pay quite a bit of money. I'm happy to answer them if I've got the time, but
yeah. Well,
no.
it depends. I think it depends who's, because like you say, I'm quite happy to help people out on social media and stuff
Yeah.
when people just have a quick question. It's just a message, but that just doesn't take much time for me. But it's more the calls. Like if someone's calls take a lot longer than just typing a quick message or a quick reply to somebody. That's the thing I try to avoid doing. And like you said, literally, I think there's about 7 people have got my phone number, and I want to keep it that way, because it's just an annoyance having to answer calls when you don't know what it's about, and then it takes 5 minutes to establish what it's about, and then another 5 minutes to get to the point, and then
It's the whole small talk, isn't it? How are you?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
good.
yeah.
How's
How's
it?
it doing?
Yeah.
What you been up to? And then
Yeah.
15 minutes in, and you're like, what do you want?
It's the reason why I do this podcast, though. One of the reasons I love this podcast is like I can catch up with you because we worked together for over the years, and I can catch up with you in a business promoting for both of us in a mutually beneficial way. Like I love that, the ability to be able to go like, Alex Curtis, do you want to come on the chat? We can chat for an
Yeah,
hour, and it's useful time, because I have
yeah,
this thing
exactly.
about dead
Leverage.
time.
Yeah, that's it. I think you've read that book as well, Essentialism.
Yeah, that was because
Speed of
you
Less.
recommended that book to me.
Yeah, that helped me. There's a few things but that was one of the main kind of instigators and catalysts to that kind of mindset about just saying no, the unapologetic saying no to things that aren't going to get you to where you need to be. Focus, like I talked about before, the main things for me that I focus on is generating quality appointments and conducting them. Things that take me away from that, I've got to define if it's worth me being taken away. Like this stuff is, because it's, like I say, it's catching up with you and it's leveraged. People are going to see this.
Yeah.
It's worth doing this, and I like to, like you said, catch up with people, because sometimes when I work from home, sat in front of these bloody four walls, week in week out, you don't really get to see or interact with people. So, but yeah, like I say, that book really cemented that for me, that it's just, yeah, you need to be really careful with your time, because it's your most valuable commodity, isn't it? You can make more money, but you can't make more time. And it's about spending your time on the things that are going to make the most amount of money. So the rest of your time you can spend doing whatever else you want to do in life that fulfills you.
And I've been using it a lot as well since then. But what's your kind of opinion on it in the industry right now as a whole, in the marketing space, for mortgage brokers in general? What's your kind of take on AI at the moment?
Yeah. So again, going back to what I mentioned about my whole business ethos and the stuff that I try to get across to my clients, is that about doing more and working less. And AI just perfectly fits that bill in terms of, yeah, just getting more time, buying back time by using and leveraging a lot of these tools. Like, just for one example, going back to what we mentioned about defining the ideal client and digging into the psychology of that market and putting together a message that encompasses the psychology. We used to get guys to go out and do surveys and post in social media groups, speak to people to find out what's going on in the head of the market. Now we can just bloody ask ChatGPT and it gives you it in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So it was like months to get that data, and it's gold, that data. And then ChatGPT again, we can just keep going from that feed and just ask it based on the psychology that you've just given me there. Create me a LinkedIn about you section based on the triggers and the psychology that you mentioned. And then we can ask it to create a post based on it, a LinkedIn post or social media post, which can be put in others as well. And then we can ask it to create a YouTube script or a video script. Yeah, it's just about prompting it in the right way. I'm in a course myself with one of the main kind of influencers, if you like, in AI. And yeah, the prompts are like a couple of A4 size. Yeah. Like,
are you part of the Marketing AI Academy?
No, I'm not sure. No, but the one is by a guy called Ruben.
Oh, okay.
I think it's called.
I'll have to find the name of the other guy that I've been listening to. They're really big as well. You might like the two of them. That's so. So one of the things I want to ask you that then. So if you're using, so this might me getting a bit deeper with this. Some people would listen. Are you making custom GPTs for each individual client, or are you actually just creating prompt lists?
Yeah. So we're just giving them, obviously, I've researched and finding out what are the best prompts. So once I've nailed
that's very hard to do. So for people, that's not just, when I say just a prompt list, people listen to this, like the right prompts are very hard to do.
Yeah.
And then you'll know this even as well, is when I show them the prompt work and I'll do this, and as you say, it's like a page and they're like, oh wow. And then the results come out and it's significantly different to what that,
yeah. That's the big difference, because most people think, I think it is just about just asking it. Like I said before, I was just giving that example, ask kind of what are the main problems and pain points of a specific, say for example, a pilot who earns 100K a year. But that's a basic prompt. Obviously, you'll get okay results, but then, yeah, it's just about leveraging all these kind of really tailored, and yeah, there's just so much. The more detail that you can give it, the better the results are. Like you said there, and it makes such a difference if you really, give it the right prompts. That's how you get the full kind of squeeze out of ChatGPT, I think.
Do you think that it's going to change the mortgage industry as a whole, or do you think that that's not really?
Yeah, because I was playing around with the custom GPTs to build one specifically for brokers, but there is a lot of things. Obviously, marketing standpoint, there's loads of things you can do in terms of getting it to create ad copy or social media copy, getting it to write emails to send out to your database, or there's loads of things in terms of marketing, but there's other things as well that it can do. Like, you can now read bank statements and things and pick out bits of bank statements and create documents and emails and things to certain people or to like lenders or whoever. There's a load of things it can do which aren't specifically marketing based.
I work closely with Empowered, the lenders. There's a mortgage broker, there's a mortgage lender called Empowered. And they're from, and it's M-Cube is their parent company. I know Matthew, who's their MD, I know him quite well. And he was just on the podcast, but they are like really forward on AI, like really forward. when I had them on the show, they have a full marketing assist thing that effectively writes compliant content for brokers, like completely FCA compliant. It's pretty crazy. And then they have a bank statement reading
Yeah.
software, and they get fully underwritten. All of their cases, when you submit a mortgage to them, all of their mortgages are underwritten by AI. So like
Right.
it's pretty mad actually, the
Oh,
stuff they're
good.
doing. I've got they'll be on the show soon, their actual
Oh,
AI
cool.
engineer, the head engineer coming on to talk about it, because
Oh, nice.
they were
I'll look
talking
out
about
for
how much has changed. But they're a small, nimble
that.
lender. They're not a bank. But the bigger
More agile.
players it'll be slower, I think, for them to come into the
Yeah.
space. A lot of the stuff they're putting out there is
Yeah.
free because they said it needs, Matthew was saying, we need to push it. Because if we don't
Yeah.
push it, then it just slows it up for everybody else.
But like you say, you can even brokers, they can actually upload the kind of financial promotion stuff from the FCA or the guidelines into ChatGPT. I think you have to have the premium one to
Yeah,
do it.
like it's the
Or,
latest one,
yeah.
yeah.
But once you've done that, then you can just say in every post, if you prompt it in the right way, after you asked it, if it's creating social media posts, you can ask it to do your post and then just please refer to the FCA guidelines that have uploaded and make sure all the required disclaimers are on there and it's fully FCA compliant, which is obviously a sticking point for a lot of people, especially with a lot of networks these days. They're pretty stringent on what's posted and how it's posted. So, and
I know
people,
one guy, I won't say his name because it's not always good what he did, but brokers listen to this will get this. They have to do their CPD. And he was like, he's DA. And he was like, he hadn't done any CPD, but they have to have the CPD log. So he was like, can you write me a full 12-month CPD log? And it was like, broke. And this is what I need to cover is these things. And it was like hilarious. And he was like, done. Took me like
yeah.
3 minutes.
Oh, this is it. There's so much it can do. I've been using it pretty much since it came out, and there's still things I'm just even with just normal life stuff. Like it's just Google for me now. I don't usually use Google. I'll just ask
Yeah.
ChatGPT whatever it is I need to know in life. And
But weren't you using it? You were using not ChatGPT, but weren't you using like Jasper and things like that beforehand, though, or something?
yeah,
Because you were, when we were working together, this came out after we stopped working together, but you were quite into all of that stuff while we were working together. I remember you talking
yeah.
about AI. You did a post that was like, this whole post has been generated by AI, and that was before ChatGPT.
Yeah, like you say, Jasper was like, I used to run a lot of Facebook ads, and that was for writing space of sales copy. Obviously, you can employ an actual copywriter, but that was good for doing that, which is basically what ChatGPT does. ChatGPT does. If you prompt it in the right way, so act as an expert copywriter with 20 years of direct response marketing experience, create me a post digging into the psychology and obviously whatever else. But it's I can't remember how much Jasper was, but it
A lot of
was
money, Jasper, wasn't it? It used to be a
yeah.
lot.
So
I
I think
swear it
they
was at
are
least, if it wasn't about 80 or 90 a month, I think it was close to ClickFunnels price. From my
yeah
understanding, it was
100 quid a
about
30 months.
150, 130 to 170 a month. It was in that kind
Mm,
of ballpark. Because I
yeah,
looked at it a few times because I'm not a confident writer. I work at it more now. And I mix between doing some AI and some written myself. And I've actually found the AI helps me get better at writing because I can
right.
see examples of what looks good versus what doesn't. And it's helped
Yeah,
with my vocabulary for sure.
yeah,
But Jasper, I remember looking at that and being like, I want to learn, but I don't want to learn that badly.
yeah. It just needs to be edited a bit and take. It's good for templates,
Yeah.
really, because yeah, it needs to sound in your own voice. But even that, you can now upload a lot of your content. Like you could upload your YouTube channel to it and
Yeah.
write stuff in your tone of how you talk about
Oh, what?
things.
You can upload your actual YouTube channel to it.
Yeah,
Oh,
so you
well.
can upload all your content, so then it'll process how you say things and how you the terminology you use, and then you can just say right in the style of Ash Borland and create me a post on whatever, and then it'll say it
I
in your
love
tone
that.
of voice.
It's clever, isn't it? It's super clever. Mate, we could talk
Yeah,
for ages. I just realized the time. So, Dan,
yeah.
if people want to learn more
So,
about working with you, where's the best place for them to go?
Facebook or LinkedIn, really. Dan Reddish.
Yeah, so Dan Reddish on LinkedIn. I'll make sure that they're all linked into the show notes here for people to see. But yeah, the stuff you're doing on LinkedIn sounds great. And it's all the type of stuff I'd be recommending people to do. So I think that's a
Yeah,
really, if people are looking for it, and you've got capacity at the moment for new clients, is that correct? Or is that not something you,
yeah. No, it's
yep.
a very scalable model in that sense. So yeah, with the New Age Advisor and yeah, both really. It's New Age Advisor and New Age firms we do, but yeah, like you say, that LinkedIn strategy. I think people are getting the best success through that. strategy at the minute. I just spoke to Joel, a guy we've been working with for just under a year now, and I didn't realize at the time, but he said he was doing 2.5K a month when he joined us, and then the first month he did 10K just off that first month of LinkedIn. They got it pumping straight away, so it can happen quick. Yeah,
Love that.
It doesn't always happen quick.
No, but there are examples of it can, and if anybody, it can also be reachable. Dan, mate, yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll wrap this one up, and then we'll have a chat quickly off air. But thank you so much for coming on, buddy.
You're welcome, mate. Absolute pleasure, Ash. Anytime.
Cheers.